Hello, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome. Welcome to the Insure Fitness webinar series. I'm Shannon with IFG, and I'm super excited to be your co-host today. If you're new to Insure Fitness Group, we're a leading provider of comprehensive liability insurance for fitness professionals across the U.S. Our coverage extends to personal trainers and a wide range of other fitness modalities. But we don't stop at insurance. We also offer exclusive member benefits like discounts, continuing education opportunities, and more, all available through our member portal. To explore everything we have to offer, visit insurefitness.com. Just a couple quick housekeeping tips. A reminder that today's webinar will run for approximately 50 minutes and it is being recorded. The recording will be emailed to everyone by tomorrow. We also encourage you to ask questions, so feel free to use the chat or question and answer feature, and we'll be monitoring both throughout. We'll also reserve the last 10 minutes for a Q&A session. Now let's jump into it. The topic of today's webinar is medical fitness, smarter programming for today's clients. Please give a warm welcome to our guest, Jonathan Ross, an award-winning fitness and expert whose personal story and passion for brain health have shaped an incredible career. Inspired by his 800 pounds appearance, Jonathan turned a personal challenge into a lifelong mission to help others live healthier, more vibrant lives. He's been named Personal Trainer of the Year by both ACE and IDEA and is widely recognized as a visionary in brain fitness. Jonathan is also the creator of Funtensity, a powerful training method that blends physical movement with cognitive engagement, and the author of Alzheimer's and Brain Fitness Specialist course, which is helping refine the role of fitness professionals in supporting long-term brain health. We're thrilled to have him here today to share his insights and innovative approach to fitness and wellness. Please welcome Jonathan, and thank you for tuning into the IFG webinar series.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Insure Fitness Group, and thanks every single one of you for giving me the gift of your time and attention today. This is going to be a fun session. We'll have plenty of time for Q&A, so I want you to kind of take note of your questions, drop them in the panel when you have them, and we'll discuss those when we get there. So today, our theme is going to be everybody's got some issues. Everybody's got some issues. And the goal of this is to give you an understanding of what that means in a fitness context, and also to give you the idea of how you can maintain both a successful career in fitness while providing services to a population whose needs are changing. And so I'm the Director of Education for the MedFit Education Foundation, in addition to the other stuff that Shannon mentioned. So I'm here today to represent the organization and just give you an idea about what medical fitness really entails. We're going to cover a few topics, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of each. So we got essential services. We're going to talk about what that means. We're going to talk about the people you serve, the industry itself, and then we're going to dive into those issues. So let's begin with our content. We'll talk about essential services first. So we'll say, are your services essential? And this is a key question that it was, I guess, essential services was a term that became popularized in the pandemic. But more in the context of fitness, I want you to think about asking, are your fitness services essential? So the key element here is, what do customers expect? What are they looking for? And if we look at essential services, as I mentioned, back in the pandemic, essential services are the usual stuff: health, medical, social services, telecommunications, IT, transportation, law enforcement, and of course, liquor stores, because somehow those all stayed open during the pandemic. No idea why. But that's essential services. But more in the context of fitness, essential services are sort of relevant to your world. Is what you do essential? And this is a very important question now because of this new era we're entering into with AI and a lot of free services out there providing a fitness experience. And my contention is this, and don't take this the wrong way, but if an app can replace you, it should. If what you do can be replaced by an app or a free or low-cost service, it should be. What you should then offer is something that is irreplaceable and is essential and is not achievable and reachable through your customers and clients via a free service or an app-based service. Because what's happening is with AI, if someone just says, I want to get in shape and lose 10 pounds for a wedding, they'll get a program spit out. If it's a cookie cutter approach that we're using, then a cookie cutter approach can be done by software. And what I hope to do is to give you the idea that you want to make yourself essential, make what you offer essential by making it unique enough, by making it specialized enough and valuable enough that it would be impossible for an app or a free or low cost service who's offering primarily a cookie cutter approach to be able to successfully serve the clients that you now serve. So you can both keep the ones you have and get more in the future. So let's look at consumer perspectives, the pre and post pandemic. The pre pandemic one is what I call circumstantial fitness. And then that's contrasted post pandemic with essential fitness because we saw in the pandemic that fitness really served you well. If you weren't healthy, you had a much worse outcome typically in general. And so the circumstantial fitness there just means people might have worked out when there was a specific goal in mind. They might have worked out just because it was a convenience thing. There's a gym in their office, or the gym is on the way home from their work. Well, once the world changed and everybody was locked down for 3 or 6 months, depending on where you were, it changed your attitude a little bit about fitness. We both knew from a health perspective that it became essential, but also from a mental health perspective, it became even more essential, not to just move, but also to move in the context of being around other people and sometimes out in nature. And home equipment is something that pre-pandemic people, unless they were really dedicated to fitness already, they weren't likely to spend a lot on. However, during and then post-pandemic, because of the significant amount of financial investment people have made in home equipment, they're very likely to stay working out at home. So you have a massive shift towards more in-home fitness than we've ever probably seen before for, I guess, ordinary regular folk who the idea of spending more than about $100 or so on home fitness equipment would have been insane before the pandemic. During and afterwards, they're much more willing to spend that higher amounts if they haven't already, which means they're probably not going to return to a gym or studio. So if you work in a gym or studio, you're getting some people come back in because they see the essential nature of fitness. But if you primarily serve in-home clients, then you have enough of those to keep you busy as well. And there's enough people that need fitness that we can all be happy, and we can all find people who serve people to serve that work in the setting that we deliver fitness in. So there's enough people that have home fitness now, and even some very robust equipment. We can provide services at home very easy. So we have a lot of free and low cost workout options now available. And certainly, during the pandemic, you had everybody jumping online and becoming a fitness expert. Like Chris Hemsworth, the guy that played Thor, was suddenly giving fitness advice, and he has about as much fitness business giving fitness advice as I do playing Thor. I'm not Thor, and certainly, if someone's like him, younger, fitter, can handle the rigors of training, then it's easy to train someone who's most like you. But where a fitness professional like you steps in is for knowing how to train anyone. And the key with anyone is whatever they bring to the table, both their age and injury history, exercise history, but also their attitudes and their likes and dislikes with exercise, and then whatever access to equipment they might have. And we knew pre-pandemic that, of course, social connection is good. Humans are social animals. We need some degree of social connection. Even introverted people need some degree of social connection to have a healthy mindset. But post-pandemic, we've really accepted that it's an essential part of the human experience is to have that social connection. And you can provide that in your services, even though it's not a strictly social relationship. There are social elements to working with someone in either a one-on-one or group setting. So that's a little bit about consumer perspectives, and just want to drive home that point for you, though, that if what you're offering is primarily just challenging workouts, that's going to be increasingly hard to sell to people at a price point that allows you to maintain a viable income that will allow you to stay in a career in fitness. Okay, moving on from our essential services to the people that we serve. Now it's time to look at some stats around the shifting age demographics. And these numbers are for the US. So right now, the over age 65 population, in 1990, it was almost 13%. By 2020, it was almost 17%. By 2030, it's projected to be a little over 20% of the population. That's 1 in 5 people walking around are going to be over age 65. And then by 2050, it's projected to be almost 23%. And in 2034, it's projected that the over age 18, the over 65 population is going to be greater than the age 18 and under population, and that's never happened before in history. So for the first time ever in history, the 65 and up age cohort will be greater in number than the age 18 and under. That means there's going to be more people over 65 than there are 18 or under. And if we look at it in graphical form, these are stats from the CDC on population. And this short little GIF I'm going to play for you shows, I think men are on the right, women are on the left. And you'll see this little tower that looks a little bit narrow at the top. And that what that means is there's horizontal bands of age as it goes up. And you'll see that, of course, as you get older, you have less number of people. People start to die off and you have kids. And so there's a wider base. It looks like almost like a little pyramid. And you'll see how this changes here. So let's pull that up and just play that for you. So there's 1980, 1990, 2000, 2010, and then it's going to end here in 2020. And you see how it becomes almost like a tower. So you look at the very top is 80. And so we see age 80 and even under that, 70 and 60, the different bands of age there. Those sections of that tower were getting wider and wider. So that means the population is skewing older. And specifically when it comes to chronic disease, which we'll define kind of what those are in just a moment, but the over age 65 population group, 85% have at least one. Now I'm 54. I've got arthritis from old sports injuries in my knee, so I'm under 65 and I've got a chronic disease as well. So there's a lot of people, even fitness professionals, many of us have one or more chronic diseases as well. And over 50% of people age 65 and up have two or more chronic diseases. But it's not just the 65 and up population. So if you're a professional who focuses mostly on just whatever normal adult age or even younger, and you go, well, that doesn't really sound relevant to me. If we look at the age 18 to 64 category, however, we still see that in 18 to 34, almost 60% have one chronic disease, and 34 to 64, almost 80% have one chronic disease. Everybody's got some issues. That's why this talk is called that, because everybody's got some issues. And when I started in fitness in 1997, what happened was I guess the fitness world, for personal training at least, looked like someone who's relatively fit and healthy would hire you to get in shape for some event, or because the doctor told them to, or maybe a spouse told them to, or it's bathing suit season or it's wedding season. So there's some specific goal, like timeline based, and it wasn't a focus on helping people stay fit with chronic disease. In fact, it was almost like thinking that if you had a disease, you had to get well first and then exercise. So we were qualified to work with apparently healthy individuals. And so there's been this shift where everybody's walking around with one or more chronic diseases. 85% of the 65 and up population have one. Then you're looking at the age 18 to 34, 60% have one, and 34 to 64, almost 80% have one. These people still will want fitness. They still need fitness. They still may come to you for fitness. They may have hypertension, osteoarthritis, cognitive or brain disease, osteoporosis, diabetes, asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, heart disease, cancer. There's a big list of chronic diseases that covers a lot of the gamut right there. And you could throw in menopause, which isn't a disease, but it's also something that affects people significantly. It affects many hormone and energy systems. And we have to be ready for these sort of things. And equipping ourselves as fitness professionals to deal with this is really our future if we want to continue to serve people well and maintain a viable income that allows us to make this truly a career that we can stay with for all of our lives. And then looking at the numbers of sort of death related to lifestyle, almost 20% of people report daily or occasional tobacco use still somehow. I don't know how that's possible. 17% report exceeding low risk drinking levels, and the low risk level of drinking is actually zero. If you've been on top of the recent studies that have come out, if you have an occasional cocktail, fine, but the only safe amount of alcohol is none. And almost 90% consume fruits and vegetables less than 5 times per day. 42 and about 30% report a BMI in the obese or overweight categories. And certainly we know there's problems with BMI. However, we can't act like the massive explosion in BMI numbers is not somehow significant, because human genetics didn't massively change 30, 40 years ago to suddenly see a big spike in those numbers. There's some useful data there, even though it's not a good metric for obesity itself. it's still an indication of how we're accumulating weight at higher than normal levels, given what our bodies are designed for. And then just over 50% do not meet aerobic physical activity guidelines. And of course, around 75% there do not meet strength training guidelines. Those last two probably aren't news to most of you if you just talk to people out and about who never have enough time for exercise. So these are some stats on just our participation as a society in various lifestyle behaviors, which are either moving us closer to health or farther away from it. And so that's not great, as we know. Hopefully, we're doing a little better job as an industry of reaching out to the people who need our help the most and who are maybe less likely to think of working with a fitness trainer because we're scary. We can be a little intimidating, not by design, but just by the nature of what we do and how fearful people often are of exercise. So now, the thing about this that I find exciting as an opportunity is that all those chronic diseases, they're positively influenced by the services that you provide. They make everything better. Whatever you're dealing with, if you do exercise in the right way, it can provide some assistance, either in general fitness, but also some direct aid with helping manage and improve some of the symptoms that are related to the condition you're facing. And then the only way to get there for you as a professional is to get specialized secondary education, and that'll up level the quality of your services and also the value of your services. So that means you can charge more and be worth it. It means you can stay viable as in terms of having a career. When I was a personal training manager about 20 years ago, there was a gentleman that I hired who was an absolutely lovely guy, good trainer, but he was struggling to get enough clients to pay the bills and was wanting to have kids. He and his wife had just gotten married and started a life. He got out of it and got into, I think, real estate. So that disappointed me, made me sad for the people that he could no longer help because he got out of an industry. He's someone who would have been great if he stayed in it. And I don't want that for you or anyone else that really has a passion for helping people. I want you to be able to stay in it. The only way to do that is to make it financially realistic that you can do so. And that means serving the people, that population who has one or more chronic diseases, which is almost everyone, a little more effectively. And then especially with the 65 and up category, though, that's growing. And again, it's going to be almost 21% by the year 2030, which is only 5 years away now. We've got two realities for them. The stats here you see on the left are just a review of what I talked about a couple of minutes ago. The 65 and up category is 20.6% by 2030. They're 85% of a chronic disease. And this is a new stat, but for the first time ever in history in 2018, there was more 65 and up people than there was 5-year-olds. And then that's projected by 2034 to include also 18 and under, where there'll be more 65 and up people. But on the other side of that, they're the third largest economy in the world in terms of the spending power of that age cohort. They've got the money, they've got the means, they've got the motivation. All they don't have is you yet. But they're also motivated by staying vital. So we have a lot of disease, but we also have a lot of goals that they want. And these are some neat numbers that the numbers of masters athletes is growing. Over 10,000 athletes age 50 to 100 competed in the 2023 National Senior Games, which is 5 times more than in 1987. Masters swimming is up. Runners in their 70s are signing up for races is up 32% in the last over a 3-year period. Pickleball, we know what that's doing. That's one of the most unusual things ever because it got popular with older people first and then younger people thought it was cool. I don't know how that happened because that never happens with anything else. And the number one discovered goal is, here's what that means. When I was sort of temporarily unemployed during the pandemic, I decided to go through 20 plus years of client files and start looking at what notes did I write down when I was doing my intake with a new client and ask them what their goals are, whatever they wrote down. There's some things that I would write down in the follow-up interview. And I like to be what I call usefully annoying by asking them probing questions, asking why, finding the real reasons for things. And what I found was the most common thing that I wrote down was some version of, I'd like to be able to play with my kids slash grandkids. That's not usually on a goal when someone's talking about getting fitness. It might be bouncing around in their head somewhere. Every now and then someone will articulate that directly as a goal, but usually that's just sort of discovered from talking with them about what matters to them. And right there is a big window into the opportunity that we have to serve the people that we'd like to serve more effectively. Is if we can give them more meaningful experiences with the people they love, then we've got a win for everybody. So that number one discovered goal that was sort of unstated by clients was some version of, I'd like to be able to play with my kids or grandkids. And this is going to become particularly relevant soon in a short video I'm going to show you that will give you some real visual impact on the opportunity that that kind of training can provide. All right, so there's the people. Now we'll look at the industry a little bit more in detail, and we'll talk about the fitness industry. And we're going to succeed by serving the unique needs of the population uniquely. It means we're going to have to figure out how we can provide our unique services to people who have unique needs. And here's that video, I think. Oh, actually, let me come to that in a second. Changing attitudes and changing expectations is first. So back when fitness was thought of as something for people who are getting in shape for a goal, or who had more money, it was they hire someone to whip them into shape for a specific goal. Usually it was very timeline focused, 3 to 4 to even 5 sessions a week, sometimes in the old days of one-on-one personal training. And then it was after the wedding, after the vacation, after the whatever, it was sort of stopped. And then you weren't really expected to address any physical issues. But now more people expect wellness, not just fitness. That means they expect to feel good in their bodies even when they're not exercising. They don't expect to just fit into their clothes more effectively and look better. They also want to feel better and do more things that are meaningful to them. And they're also, that means willing to devote more of their financial resources and more of their time resources to pursuing health. But they've all got issues. Now, looking at the bigger picture with goals, avoiding disease is not a goal. We talked about the previously undiscovered goals that I was noting, play with kids, play with grandkids, as being the one that was coming out from the interview process that I had with clients. Well, a lot of people, if you look at the context in which most fitness is presented to people, it's you should do aerobic exercise because it's good to lower your blood pressure. So what? That doesn't motivate anyone. That's not how we're going to sell fitness to people. It has to be something that's more emotionally relevant. So for all of us, we have to discover the emotional relevance of exercise for people. And this is an example of how to do that. We have the goal setting process, but we want to have them be specific and we want to have them to be emotionally meaningful. So we have to get away from generalities like lose weight, get in shape, have more energy, feel better. And we take them from what I call meh goals to yeah goals, where it's injected with emotion. It's enjoyable. It creates or enhances enjoyable experiences. It lets them do stuff they love, try stuff they've never tried before that they might like, or do something again that they haven't done in a long time that they love. And it lets them do it with the people they love. Those are goals that people will get excited about. Here's that video I talked about. Wow, how's that for motivating you to get in shape? If you don't find that moving, you don't have a soul. Now, that hashtag at the end, Herzensangelegenheit, is German for matters of the heart. I don't know what ad that's even for. I just found that years ago when I was looking for something, and it really gives you a great example of what fitness can do for you. Now, we might quibble over the technique the guy was using with his kettlebell, or certainly the tracksuit he was wearing, but the takeaway is that fitness should bring us closer to being able to more meaningful experiences with the people that we love. And when I look at forms and that say, I'd like to be able to play with my kids or grandkids more effectively, that's the kind of stuff that lights up my excitement for sharing medical fitness with both my clients, but also with you as members of the industry, because the people out there need you badly to provide services that can get them closer to where they want to be, even if they're not feeling 100% and probably never will again because they have some chronic disease. We can always make things better. All right, so now let's look at those issues in a little more detail. The key to success in the fitness industry, in my opinion, is that once you get your basic understanding of fitness, start learning everything that isn't fitness. Look at posture, corrective exercise, behavior modification, mobility, willpower, motivation, brain fitness, sleep, stress, nutrition, and disease-specific exercise consideration, which is what we term medical fitness. So if we want to know what medical fitness is, that's kind of what it is right there. And so let's jump into that concept a little more deeply, and we'll just explore what medical fitness is. It kind of bridges the gap between clinical treatment and traditional exercise. It allows people to still pursue fitness while they're dealing with whatever condition they have, and it either prevents the onset of disease or delays the progression of it. It improves the quality of life in those that have it. Whatever you're dealing with, you can make it better if you do it in a fit body, and that applies to whether you have no chronic diseases, one or two or more. And if we appropriately structure it, we can make some of the issues better. So that's really what medical fitness is. It's not waiting until people get something cleared and they're no longer suffering from it, because for many people that will never happen. But our bodies are not either or. We're not either sick or healthy. We're either moving closer to one of those two ends of the spectrum or the other. And then even beyond healthy, we have thriving. So we want to feel even better than just the absence of disease. So there's a little idea of what medical fitness is. Now, our library of medical fitness courses looks like this. These are the topics that we have in our database. We're currently in development on a cancer medical fitness specialist course too. So this is our current library of courses. And so if you're looking at these and you wonder like, okay, well, how do these work? So I'll just give you a little sense of like sort of what's it like to take one of the courses. They're all video based. They're between 10 to 20 hours. There's one that's a little over 20 hours, but they're between 10 and 20 hours. And there's usually a mix of video instruction with some degree of reading material. Some of the courses have just a slide dump of what you see in the video presentations. Other ones like mine, the Alzheimer's and Brain Fitness course, I have a separate manual that's additional information and almost like a little like workbook, 200 pages to read. So some courses have a lot of reading material associated with it, and then combined with the video. Others have a little more video, a little less. Some have exercise videos, some don't, just because it's not relevant. For example, like type 2 diabetes, it doesn't really require exercise modifications. It just requires the way you exercise to be modified. And then other ones like arthritis, osteoporosis, the Alzheimer's and Brain Fitness and Parkinson's course, and fibromyalgia, multiple sclerosis. There's some very specific exercise considerations there. So you have exercise videos associated with those courses. And so that's just gives you an idea of what the courses are like. When you purchase one of the courses, they're yours for sort of indefinitely. You don't have a deadline. You don't lose access after a year. You can go through the course at your own pace. And there's a 100 question exam that you have to pass with a minimum score of 80% to be able to get the certificate. And our specialty certificates are a little bit of a hybrid of a certification and education. What we want is you to get the education and use it, but we also want you to stay current, because a lot of what's happening with a lot of medical fields, it's rapidly changing. So every 2 years, we have 10 hours of continuing education credits required, just like most organizations would, to keep your specialty certificate current. So if you have any questions about particular courses, I'm familiar with all of them, some of them a little more than others, but I have at least a cursory knowledge of what's in almost all of them. I took over as director of education in 2022. Some of the courses were already up and running by then, so I have less familiarity with them, but I've launched a bunch of these, so I know them in a little more detail. And so then what's MedFit? Just a quick overview. Our founder, Lisa Doherty, was motivated by her frustrations in terms of having a client come to her and I have blank, and she doesn't have the skills to train that person. So she was motivated both by her father's experience with cancer, but more specifically with her clients coming to her with medical conditions. And she would have to go out and find piecemeal chunks of information about how to work with people that had various medical conditions. And then so 2013, she launched MedFit Network, which is the first little box under our big term of MedFit. That network provides you client referrals if you do work in the fitness industry, and you also get product and service discounts. And what happens is for us, we get returned very high near search results. If someone says, I want fitness help with osteoporosis, and they're in a certain geographical area, it's by zip code, they'll be more likely to find our site because we get returned very high near the top of the search results. We have a big grant from Google AdWords for that because we're a nonprofit medical fitness foundation. And so when they search on our site, they'll be more likely to get referred to you if you're a member of our network. So again, that also does come with product and service discounts, one of which is for Insure Fitness Group. You get a discount on your liability insurance as well. And then after 2013, it was 2016 or 17, she founded the MedFit Education Foundation, which used to focus mostly on live events. But when the pandemic happened, she pivoted pretty quickly to doing online education and creating video courses. So that's where our massive library of video courses has come from. And then in 2018, she started MedFit TV, which is where we do our educational webinars, much like the one you're viewing now with Insure Fitness Groups. We have our own line. They're every other week. They're free when you sign up in advance. After the fact, there's a small fee to access the recordings, but they're all free in advance. The next one we have coming up is ab exercises for people over 50. The one we did yesterday was how to help people with fibromyalgia through play and changing the emotional response of exercise. And then in 2023, Lisa opened the Training and Education Center, which is an in-person studio delivering medical fitness coaching in person. So that's where she's based out of in California. So a little overview of the different channels that we have via MedFit, and just I think that's kind of helpful as well. We're also offering mentoring, which I'll discuss in just a moment. So I'm coming to the close of my official time. I want to allow time for Q&A with everyone. I'll just go over a few last things here with you. And I'll say, number one, thank you for giving me your time and attention. All of our specialty courses, that big list, we have the largest library of medical fitness courses you'll find in any one spot anywhere in the world, and that's by design. We wanted to be a one-stop shop for you, so you didn't have to go to one place for one condition and somewhere else for another. And we're offering 50% off all of our courses through May 24th using the code Insure50. And that 50% off, that's like a Black Friday sale, essentially. We only really do that at Black Friday time. So you're getting Black Friday in May, where you're getting an opportunity to buy all of our courses for 50% off. And they don't have any kind of end date for when your access ends. So if there's a few you really want to get into, but you know you have to space them out because the realities of there only being 24 hours in a day, I would encourage you to take advantage of that discount while you can. And then, of course, MedFit Network, I mentioned, is the referral network for medical fitness clients. And then mentoring is something that we've started offering just last year, around the middle of last year. We have Lisa offering mentoring, I'm offering mentoring, and another one of our board members, Dan McKeska, is also offering mentoring with that as well. It's pretty affordable. It's not super expensive. That's Lisa's goal, is to make everything accessible to fitness professionals. So just be sure to check that out if you're interested in having one of us work with you to help you with your practice and some specific things you're trying to do in your space, in your place with your people. And the rest of that on there is just how you connect with me if you would like to, either through social media or through the web. And I'm going to turn it back over to Shannon for questions. And just again, thank you for your time and attention. If you got to go, thank you for spending this time with me. And I'm going to try to address as many questions as I can in the time we have remaining.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jonathan. We do have a couple of questions here.
Okay.
From Anonymous. Is it legal to advertise ourselves as 65 plus fitness instructors? If not, how can we target that segment specifically then?
I don't see why it wouldn't be. I might check with local laws where you are, but there's nothing conceptually that would be a problem. It's in a way, it's stating your own niche of clients that you've chosen to work with. Um, I think that's a fine way to say it because whatever term you want to put on it, people get offended at geriatric, even though that term is perfectly fine, doesn't mean anything bad, but people have issues with things, so you don't want to just putting a number on it. If you would like to focus on 55 and up, I don't see any conceptual reason why that would be illegal to do so. I think it might even be helpful. And I would just check with some of your local laws to make sure that kind of thing would be okay.
Perfect. We have a lot of questions coming in about the 50% off. I know it shows through May 24th using code Insure50, but
Oh, I
it is
thought
the
you only gave it.
28th.
Yeah,
Time
28.
flies, right? So
Yeah,
just want to clarify that for anyone that's
yeah.
interested in using the
It didn't
course.
mean May 24th of next year. So what happened was this was originally scheduled for May 14th, and I kind of worked on some of this content before before we changed the date to
Yep.
today. So essentially, what you can do is thanks for catching my error. That was so simple. I missed it. So that's going to be essentially add 10 days from the end of from today. So we got 29, 20, 30. It'll be June 8th or 7th, something like that will be the end of that. So yeah, it'll be June 7th or 8th. I'll coordinate that, but I'll just say June 8th. I'll just say that I'll go ahead and tell our web designer to make that coupon good until June 8th. So yeah, that
Perfect.
didn't mean May 24th, 2026. It's
Awesome.
next
And
year.
in the follow-up email that everyone will be receiving, we'll clarify the June 28th, so don't have to worry about keeping that date in mind. We will send that to you.
Yeah, so we'll just say through the end of June 8th. That'll be well, thanks for asking about that. I'm sitting here looking right at it and I even said it, but I was just so focused on all the content. It was so obvious I missed it.
No worries. Awesome. So we have a great question from Zachary.
Mhm.
How can personal trainers, physical therapists, massage therapists, and the medical field work together for everyone's health?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's always a little bit unique to the situation you're in, the client you have, the specific professionals that client has. What I'll say is see if your client is comfortable giving you the information of the physical therapist, of the doctor. Also encourage your client if they've had some success with something that you're doing with them. If the client is talking to the other person and the person says, well, gee, like, wow, how did you start doing that? Or where did you learn that? Say, here, be sure to give them my info. But I like to get the info of the other professionals that my clients are working with, especially those that have more serious conditions. There's one woman I'm working with now who's in stroke recovery, and I've been working with her for about 3 years. She's got a neurological based physical therapist, and I've been talking to her a lot periodically. Sometimes we don't talk for a couple of months, but sometimes we'll connect with each other. So just see if your client's willing to share the contact info of the other allied health professionals that that client of yours is working with, and then contact them, and also ask your client what they're like. If they follow cookie cutter protocols, they're probably not going to be open to working with you just because they won't know how to process that. But if they're just kind of like, yeah, whatever works for my client is cool, and I'm going to go with that, they'll probably be interested in coordinating with you some of the strategies that you might use. But I think that's the best way to go about it is talk to the client first, ask them what those other allied professionals are like, see if the client's willing to share their info, and then you can reach out to them and see if you can make a connection both to deal with that client, but then that can also be a source of future referrals. Not that that's the main reason you're doing it. It's just it's really helpful to have that network built out, and that's how you do it is you find people in your area that do work that you align with when you meet them. And so that's how I would recommend going about it.
Awesome. We have a longer question from Nikki that came in.
Okay.
So obviously being financially stable is essential, and it's great if we can charge more for our services. But I feel like so many of these populations with chronic health conditions and elderly are frequently on the lower end of income and can't afford those services. Any thoughts on how to reach that audience and still build and maintain a financially stable business?
Nikki, that's a great question, and it really is. And I know you hear that that's a great question a lot, but that is because you're really getting to the heart of why we do what we do. I didn't get into this to help wealthy people get in shape. Not that that's a bad thing to do. but I also want to be able to earn a living for myself. So that over the years, as I've learned more, I charge more, but I've also gotten better at information delivery. So what I do is the way I explain services to people, if there is some concern around the financial end of it, and at this point, 27 years into doing this, I don't have cheap rates, but I also tell people that there's a way that will make it work. And we don't lower the quality. And of course, you never lower the quality, but I wouldn't recommend lowering what you charge. What you do is you get people to understand that even if they can have, so there's actually two answers. So this is the first one. Even if they could have only one session per month with you in a year, that's 12 hours with you. Now, what could they do if they had 12 hours with you? So then the other way to look at that is going to be to say, well, if they can find a way to do perhaps 2 to 3 weeks of a concentrated frequency of sessions, maybe 2 to 3 times a week for 3 to 5 to maybe 6 sessions over a couple of weeks. That'll give you a lot of what you need to focus on during the onboarding process. And then you can say, after that, we'll go to a monthly or maybe an every 6 week or every 2 week session, or even once every 3 months. Space it out so they can find it financially affordable. The other answer to that question is to ask them to consider how much they may have already spent seeking solutions to what they're dealing with. And if you know with absolute certainty that the fitness services that you provide will make a meaningful difference with what someone is dealing with. And for example, I'll give you an example. This has happened many times over the years, and this is why I'm encouraging everyone to learn as much as you can that isn't fitness, including like biomechanics and movement and mobility and just muscle imbalances, and learn how to do some muscle testing, because a lot of times people will have something like pain but no pathology. It's not medical fitness yet, but it's medical fitness adjacent because they're hurting and they may have had x-rays and MRIs and they don't know why. And the doctor said, well, we can't see any reason why your knee hurts. That doesn't mean the knee stops hurting because they can't find a reason for it. What that's saying is there's no medical reason your knee hurts, meaning there's no pathology yet. But what they might have is joint stress caused by a misalignment, caused by a muscle imbalance. That's something that you can help with. And if you consider what people have sometimes spent in terms of just getting, and all these things have a valuable role, but if someone has a chronically tight area that they go get released by massage once every 3 weeks, but it keeps getting tight, that's something you can help with. Massage would still have value for that person, but maybe they can focus on other things rather than just undoing the damage that keeps getting done by the way they're moving every 3 weeks. So if you can put it in terms of, well, how much have you already spent on this? Not that you're trying to use that as ammunition necessarily, but just to get them to see that by a relatively manageable investment in a short period of time with you, you can make a meaningful difference in what they're dealing with. So I hope that helps, Nikki.
Awesome. We had another question from Nikki, actually. Do you have to start with the Medical Foundations course to take other courses?
No, that's not necessary at all. What the Medical Foundations course is designed to do, that's designed for maybe fitness professionals who don't have a lot of medical fitness clients yet, and you maybe want to see which conditions you might feel like expanding your knowledge base in. And so if you do know that you have a lot of clients with a certain thing, or you're passionate about a certain topic of medical fitness, I would encourage you to go ahead and just dive into whichever one of those specific topics are. The foundations course is meant as a general overview of multiple conditions, just to give you some basic skills in addressing those in a fitness context. But it's not like considered a prerequisite for the other courses. Most people, if they do know some of the areas they want to specialize in, they just kind of dive into one of the specialty topics that's already available.
Awesome. We had a question come in from Lori. You discuss amazing fitness opportunities to help age 18 plus. We work with youth exposed to violence and other trauma. Do you have any of your courses that addresses this for children and youth?
Wow, that sounds like some very intense work. No, we don't have a course specific to that. That's certainly a good idea for perhaps a future one, and maybe if you get enough expertise in that, you can help us develop one. Because that sounds like there would be a lot of opportunity for that for other professionals that would be specializing with that type of client. But no, we don't currently have anything that would help with that. Sorry.
Question from Deborah. Sorry for the off topic question, but I'm very curious, what is the device Jonathan is wearing on his left hand?
It's
And
okay, Deborah. I
sincerely
get that.
hoping my question isn't too personal. Thank you.
No, it's um, Funny, Deborah, I usually get that once per presentation, whether it's in person or whether it's virtual like this. It used to be people thought it was some kind of weird jewelry. Now some people think it's some kind of activity tracker. It's neither. It's my presentation clicker. It's got little buttons here. I can go forward and back.
Awesome.
It's got a laser pointer on it, so I can use that when necessary. But I just like keeping my hands free, especially when I'm doing fitness demonstrations with equipment. I've got to catch a medicine ball. I can still do that with this in my hand. I don't have to put anything down, but um, that's all it is. Not too personal. I usually get that once per presentation. So thanks, Deborah. Got that one out of the way.
Awesome. Question from Zachary came in. How can we get better physical fitness programs in schools K through 12?
Okay, so that's a question really outside my skill set because, outside my knowledge base. I would know how to do it, but the problem is when you're dealing with school systems, you're dealing with such a monstrously difficult to crack into administrative structure that it's it's unfortunately incredibly difficult to get through the red tape and the bureaucratic stuff with that. What I would find would be more successful would be potentially if you can connect with a private school. Again, you may not be motivated to helping private school people. Maybe they're privileged enough, but they're usually, if they're small, privately owned, they have all the decision makers on site. They don't have to go through a review board like with public schools where it's going to be this massive process. So I don't have a lot of experience with that. I have worked with teachers that are part of schools, but not with the schools themselves. And I have the times in my life when I've waded a little bit into that territory, many, many years ago to try to pursue that. I saw the staggering amount of like red tape and bureaucratic resistance that you get. Not that people are opposed to the idea of kids being fitter, it's just that they're already overwhelmed and seeing how that might fit into what they do and making space for it and dealing with liability issues. It's just a monster that most people won't want to tackle unless you get an administrator that's particularly motivated to do it. So if you find one like that, you can probably use that person as you're in to start working on it. But if it's not a public school situation and you don't have some connection that's going to be your champion, I would say maybe try a private school arrangement.
Awesome. We have our last question before we wrap up from Paul. Can
Okay.
you address the concept of scope of responsibility when dealing with people with certain challenges, arthritis, back surgery, etc., based on the newfound knowledge we will attain?
Right. So I'll say scope of responsibilities, a term I'm not exactly familiar with, but I think where you're going with that is that this is actually a good way to close, and I'm hoping this answers your question. If not, we might have time for a quick follow-up, but I'll say this. If you haven't done a lot of medical fitness training, one thing I can say in for about 18 years of doing leadership work in the fitness industry is that the people who worry me are the ones who don't attend webinars like this, who don't attend courses like we have, who don't go to conferences and don't educate themselves, are the ones who have a cavalier attitude. They think they already know everything they need to know, and they just put people through workouts. The people who I'm not afraid of are the people who are scared of hurting people. And that might sound weird, but what it means is if you have a concern that what you might be doing with someone is wrong, you probably won't hurt them just because that concern alone will have you avoid 90% of the problems that you can get into when fitness programming. The other thing I want to say in relation to this is that if any of you listening to this, if you've never taken a medical fitness course before, or if you have a client currently dealing with something, I do not want you to wait until you feel like you know everything about that condition or complete the course before you help them. Because here's the thing. People that have arthritis are going to go out and they're going to do yard work and they're going to do gardening and they're going to do grocery shopping and they're going to do house cleaning and they're going to do things that use that joint or joints that have arthritis anyway. They're going to do stuff anyway. It's not like we can immobilize them until we get everything fixed. So because we know that they're going to move anyway, if you can help them right now, today, based on what you already know, move a little bit better and take a little bit less and put a little bit less stress on those affected tissues, you've already helped them. So don't wait until you know everything to do something. So I hope that helps.
Awesome. Perfect. So we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for your time today and sharing your knowledge with our audience. It's been
You're welcome.
amazing. Just want to provide another reminder that this recording will be emailed to you by tomorrow. We're also announcing our giveaway in partnership with MedFit. We will be giving away 1 year Insure Fitness Group policy in addition to the Foundations of Medical Fitness course. So that will be the giveaway that we were kicking off tomorrow. We will be including the landing page where you can sign up for the giveaway, which will conclude at the end of June. So please look out for that email. It'll be coming through tomorrow. So thank you everyone for being here today. Hope you have a wonderful day.
You're welcome. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, John.